part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi Roda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our fantabulous, outstanding, one-of-a-kind producer, Ty Courts, making sure all of this gets out to you in the podcatosphere. And Michael Reghi, it is football season, my friend. The Browns, thanks to playing in the Hall of Fame game this year, get to start a week early like the Jets do, the two teams that are playing in that game, and their training camp is underway in John Denver country. Take me home, country roads to a place I belong, Mountain Mama, West Virginia, baby. How about that? Kicking off the season in West Virginia, the Browns this year.
There it is, Roadman. Well spelled out. And as far as football starting, all through the years that we've been together, I got to say, as much as, we both did with the Cavaliers, to me, the football season and for us to be together and discussing Browns in the NFL and even college football, that's, to me, that's special. Always been special. So I enjoy starting it with you again. And good job, by the way, last week, as you had to fly solo. I wasn't able to go last week. So you hit it out of the park, man. Good job. Home run.
You're a busy man, and you're prepping for your college games. What year will this be for you doing college football, Reg? Come on. It's not how old you are. It's the fact that you've been able to continue to do this for so many years.
Yeah, my first year calling college football was 1986. So that's 37, although I must say, Kenny, there were a few years in there when I was calling the Cavaliers on TV.
Right.
I wasn't able to do maybe but one or two games.
Still, though,
because of the Cavaliers schedule.
After all these years, kudos to you, man. That's
my
great.
favorite. Still my favorite.
Yeah, I know it is.
Calling college football is something I love. So it's an honor, and to be able to get ready for another year that starts here at the end of August.
Be here before you know it. All right, well, the Brownies are getting started right now. We said August 3rd, Hall of Fame game, Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, Jets and Browns. That'll be the first game of the 2023 NFL season officially. So, Reg, here they are, 9 days, I believe, in West Virginia. 8 practices allegedly will be held in those 9 days. 2 days into it, already with Kevin Stefanski and company. Just, some thoughts from you on your expectations going into this camp and anything you're hearing early on as we're underway.
Well, they better be a playoff team. I know that is something that they better find a way to do. The expectations start right there with that, and rightfully so. Everyone expects Deshaun Watson to return to the type of quarterback play that we saw when he was with the Houston Texans. He did have a couple of good years. And Kenny, you and I brought this up already during the offseason. Let's be honest. I mean, doesn't this whole thing start and end with him in terms of how strong is he going to be able to be with this offense? I'm hearing, Ken, that Kevin Stefanski is giving him, I don't know if I'm going to call it leeway or freedom, but how about a big voice in how this offense is run and going to scheme-wise, how plays are called, what suits the offense the best. It sounds to me like Deshaun Watson is getting a large voice in just that.
I heard Kevin Stefanski today speaking with the media there at the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia saying, if my quarterback likes the play, I'm going to like that play. So that basically, backs up what you're saying right there. If Deshaun Watson goes to Kevin Stefanski and says, I like ZY shallow swap Y2 banana, whatever they call them, right? If he likes that play, then guess what? You're going to see that in the game, because if the quarterback feels comfortable with it, the coach should feel comfortable because the quarterback does. So, I think we're going to see a similar Kevin Stefanski offense, but with more freedom and maybe more what's the audibles, if you will, or some some slight changes to those plays with Deshaun Watson now in his second year with the Browns.
Well, let's you and I get into this, though. Do you think Deshaun Watson is actually going to call his own plays? Or do you think that's still coming from Stefanski and the OC?
I think it's still going to be coming from Stefanski, but I think the input to the game plan will be, I don't want to say 50-50 with Deshaun and Kevin and AVP, but I'm guessing at least 40-45% input from Deshaun Watson, and then they'll formulate the game plan and go with it based on what both parties like from that standpoint.
I agree with that wholeheartely. And I think that's the way it's got to be in this situation that they're in right now.
Yeah.
That's the way it's got to be. Because, again, we know, the numbers and in the 6 games and all this and that. But I think this goes so much greater than that, Kenny. This has got to be where, this guy now is the face, the name, and everything that's got to be right, again, for this team to take the kind of steps that from fans and everyone expects them to. It's got to be a lot about Deshaun Watson taking this thing over and making it his and doing it the right way. Because without it, Ken, I don't see how they can be successful.
Not in this division, Michael, with Lamar Jackson now locked and loaded with the Baltimore Ravens. You've got Jackpot Joey and the Bengals, who won the division last year. The Steelers, who finished in third place. Remember, Browns were in last place last year at 7-10. Mike Tomlin keeps his winning season streak alive with a 9-8 mark, but Kenny Pickett, jury's still out on him. But in this division, this is all about Deshaun Watson is going to have to play to the level of, if not better, than Joe Burrow, then Lamar Jackson, if the Browns are going to challenge within this division. End of story.
Without question. We don't have to add anything to that. There it is. There it is. That's what's got to take place. If you're going to have, as we said, the Browns have this season be successful. And that means we can discuss that, Ken. So what is the ultimate success this year? I'm not ready to say it's Super Bowl or bust. I can't go there yet. There's too many things. Yes, we like the roster, but there's too many things about this team. So we'll start with making the playoffs. I don't know. Would you like to see? You just went through the division. Would you like to see them win the AFC North? Well, I think at least you're talking 12-5 then, at least. If not 13-4, more than likely, if you're going to win the division. So is that part of this equation? Is advancing in the playoffs win a playoff game? Or do you think some fans, as I said a moment ago, you think some fans think they better get to the Super Bowl or it's a bust out?
Michael, I was contemplating this today because I was reading some stuff on the Cavs from Chris Fedor, who does a great job with Cleveland.com. And the core four, they're back together for another year, and they've added Strus and Yang and those guys, right? And I thought to myself, you and I, our conversations this past year on the R&R podcast, and we said, look, making the playoffs will be considered an excellent season for the Cavaliers this past year, right? Because they didn't make it the previous year. It was the play-in. So just getting in the playoffs was going to make it a good season for the Cavaliers. And you and I both expected them to beat New York, right? But they came up short, so it ended on a sour note. But they did reach the goal that you and I said they had to reach this past year, and that was to make the playoffs.
Okay.
When I started thinking about that and then comparing it to the Browns, I'm sorry. I need the Browns to not just make the playoffs, Michael. They need to win a playoff game. They need to challenge for the division this year. And here's why. We're not talking about, young players like Darius Garland and Evan Mobley learning and growing into NBA players. We're talking about a $230 million quarterback in Deshaun Watson, the best running back in the National Football League in Nick Chubb, one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, a defensive player of the year candidate in Myles Garrett, right? And a revamped secondary with a new defensive coordinator. I'm sorry. For me, the expectations are higher for the Browns, even though they finished in last place last year, than my expectations were for the Cavaliers. I'm expecting playoffs, if not winning the division and winning a playoff game this year for the Cleveland Browns.
Absolutely fair. Without question, absolutely fair. Anything less than that, to me, if I tell you what, if they don't make the playoffs, oh man, you got to think heads are going to roll. Number one, heads are going to roll. It won't be Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson's going to be the Cleveland Browns quarterback probably, I'll almost say, for the next 5 years, if not more, but I'll just start with 5. But yeah, Kenny, I do believe they'll do that. I don't know about winning the division right now. I love to see it. I don't know, though. I think right now, as constructed, the Cincinnati Bengals are the best football team in the division. Now, we're going to start finding out, right? I mean, we're going to finally now start to play. So we're going to find out. So now the long offseason is behind us. I think the Bengals are still, until proven otherwise, right, I still think they're the top team in the division. Lamar Jackson notwithstanding, because of, his injuries, missing games, you call him Jackpot Joey. I'll go right now today with Burrow as the top quarterback in the division.
Yep.
And so can Deshaun Watson be the Browns, as we said, face leader that starts making inroads on all of these things? Anything we want to bring up positively about the other 3 football teams in the division? Can Watson start the Browns' challenge to supersede some of that? Hopefully can. You just mentioned, look, the offensive roster, I think, is damn good. It's damn good. Now, you got to keep Nick Chubb healthy.
Right.
Got to. But yet again, hey, listen, you got to give Chubb a blow here and there now. Right? I mean, you can't be having him out for 95% of the offensive snaps and carrying the football 20 to 25 times a game. And I know Chubb's ready to do that, and he'll tell you he is. But Kenny, I think, you got to be a little bit judicious about that with a guy like him, right? Because you got to get him his blows here and there. I mean, in games, during the course of the game, right? So, I mean, again, this is where Deshaun Watson is going to have to, and that pass game, the Browns' pass game, is going to be under heavy scrutiny, Ken. I know they think, though, it's like, we're going to be fine. We're going to like it. You're going to see a big rise in production. Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. Let's see if you can make it happen.
Reg, last year they went 3-3 in the division. Okay, so they're 7-10 overall. But 3-3 in the division. For whatever reason, they play the Bengals well. Patrick Mahomes had trouble beating Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had trouble beating the Cleveland Browns. Go figure, right? Don't know why it's that way.
I hear you.
But KC finally beat Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game. They go on and win the Super Bowl. So for whatever reason, Browns seem to play well within the division. Steelers, Ravens, Bengals outside of the division, not as well, as they went 4-7 outside the division last year. And Reg, we're going to find out in the first 4 weeks, because 3 of the first 4 games are all division games. You're going to know early on where you stand within the division, because you open at home with Cincinnati, you travel to Pittsburgh, then you've got Tennessee in week number 3, and then week number 4, you've got the Baltimore Ravens at home. So you've got 3 of your first 4 games at home, and 3 of the first 4 are in the AFC North, a division you have never won in its history. Since it's been in existence, the Browns have never won the AFC North. You got to go back to the AFC Central late 80s, the last time they won a division. So 3-3 last year. What will they be after the first 3 games this year? Ideally, with 2 of those 3 at home, they need to be at least 2-1 after those first 3 AFC North games in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, they do. And I know this, when it all comes to a conclusion the first week of January, regular season I'm talking about, it better say 4-2 minimum in the division. Can I really believe that?
Yeah.
If we're talking about potentially winning it, or at least getting one of the top wild cards, if not, Ken, you got to go 4-2 in your division.
Yeah.
3-3 is not going to cut it anymore. Just isn't. So Let's see. And that to me, again, that means you're going to between Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore. You got to find a way to beat those three. In my mind, 4 times out of the 6 you play them.
I'm with you 100%. And winning the division is the way you really want to go because it guarantees you
That's
that
right.
first game at home in the playoffs. So that's why winning the division, forget about them challenging for best record in the AFC. That ain't happening. Okay. I'm leaning towards Kansas City or Buffalo, as the teams there that will battle for the best record in the AFC, but you want to win your division so you're guaranteed at least one home playoff game. So that's why you've got to, like you said, go minimum 4-2 if you want to win this division, and then hopefully go 500 the rest of the way with the rest of your season, Reg, because if you do that 4-2, that leaves you 11 games. You go 5-4, so minimum that's 9 wins. Now that's not going to win you the division, but that's a 2-game improvement over what it was last year. But they need to get into double digits if they want to have any thoughts of A, winning the division, or B, making it as a wild card.
Before we go to break, does 11-6 win this division?
Maybe. Right now, maybe. I need to see throughout the year what injuries have occurred, right?
Of course.
Of course. Who's playing who and what everybody's schedule. But 11 puts you in the conversation.
You're
as
right
division
there,
champ.
right? Should be, yes. You're in a conversation. Yeah. No question about that. So to me, that's the number. I think they need to win 11 football games. Now, 10-7 will probably get them in the playoffs. Could win the division. We don't know, as we just said. But, man, if they could find a way to hit that win number at 11, I'd feel pretty good about where they are come that second week of January, Kenny.
Reg, Chargers 10-7 made the playoffs. Ravens 10-7 made the playoffs. Miami 9-8 made the playoffs as wildcard teams last year. So double digits gives you a chance to at least get in the playoffs. 11 gives you a chance to win the division, I think, with a 17-game schedule. All right, Reg, let's do this. Let's get a break in here on the R&R podcast. I want to come back. I want to pick your brain more on the Brown stuff. Strengths and weaknesses of this team going into this camp. What is Kevin Stefanski staring at? What is he looking at? What is Jim Schwartz looking? What are they studying in these first 9 days, 8 practices in West Virginia, and then the Hall of Fame game? What questions, strengths, and weaknesses are they looking at? I want to pick your brain about that when we come back. We'll dive into that. We'll also talk some Guardians as they're still in the hunt, but all of a sudden now they're 3 games back. So we'll get your thoughts on the trade deadline coming up with the Guardians. Plenty more to tackle and talk about here on the R&R podcast, right here on the Press Play Podcast Network, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
We rock and roll along with the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, and it's all powered by MGM Northfield Park. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening with a 6 p.m. post time. Wager and win daily on top thoroughbred and harness tracks from around the world with action starting around noon. Plus, enter to play the free handicapping contest every Sunday for a chance to win cold, hard cash. Registration begins at 11 a.m. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. And shout out to Brent Reitz and everybody there at MGM Northfield Park for being on board once again with the R&R podcast. We really appreciate that. And if you haven't been out there, it's a lot of fun. It's a good time heading out to the track. So head on out there and tell them Reghi and Roda sent you to Northfield Park. All right, Michael Reghi, Training camp underway for the Browns. We've discussed the importance of Deshaun Watson. Let's break away from the quarterback. Let's tackle the strengths and weaknesses of this team through your eyes, Michael Reghi, and what you think they are looking at, what they are studying, what they feel good about, what they have question marks about entering camp.
Yeah, Ken, let's go over to the other side of the ball right away. I like Jim Schwartz, the DC now, the new defensive coordinator. I think he's Schwartz, to me, he's always got that little bit of badass about him, and, that doesn't necessarily guarantee you winning football games, but I like how I know he's going to try to, in his likeness and his mold, what type of defense he's looking at. Kenny, I'm a little concerned, though, again, the defensive line, I like the addition of Dalvin Tomlinson. I think that's going to be huge for Myles Garrett. Okay. The secondary, I'll say decent to solid, but again, Kenny, the linebacking core, it concerns me. I'm interested to see what, from a scheme perspective and how Jim Schwartz is going to look to use his linebackers. I mean, again, are they going to be, does he feel confident enough that he can be a heavy blitz group with his linebacking unit? Again, which, as we know, puts a little bit more onus on that secondary, a little bit more one-on-one. How does he feel about linebackers in coverage? Does he feel good about his linebackers being able to help out and deal with tight ends and running backs in pass coverage? That's another thing we're going to have to find out starting as camp gets underway. But overall, I just like the fact I have trust and I have confidence, Ken, that Jim Schwartz, again, as the year goes along, is going to have a pretty productive Browns defense that can just not have the offense have to put up 35 every week to win. That's a bottom line key. And I feel good about Schwartz that he'll be able to, as we said, the year going to go along, and I think Schwartz will incrementally have that defense getting better.
Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Anthony Walker Jr., Jake Phillips, Sione Takitaki, the top four linebackers.
How you feel about it? You tell me.
It's the weakest part of the entire football team, Reg, in my opinion. I believe that's their weakest unit, and it concerns me, but it doesn't seem to concern them, right? They don't seem overly concerned about it because
you're right.
I was looking at the ourlads.com scouting report on the Browns and their depth chart, and they have the Browns basically playing a 4-2-5 defense, meaning you're only going to have JOK and Anthony Walker on the field anyways, because they're going to have Ward, Delpit, Thornhill, Emerson, and Newsome on the field most of the time. With the nickel package and whatnot. So I guess if they aren't concerned about it, and Jim Schwartz wasn't as concerned about it as maybe you and I are right now, then I defer to Jim Schwartz. Maybe he feels with the additions that they've added Zadarius Smith as the bookend to Myles Garrett. You mentioned Dalvin Tomlinson, right? You bring in Okoronkwo. Now, yes, they lose, Perion Winfrey because of his off the field issues. That hurts.
Addition by subtraction, though, I think, They were
counting on him, though, Reg, right?
Yes,
or they wouldn't have brought him back after what happened off the field last year.
Right.
And he disappointed. So now is Jordan Elliott starting worthy as the other, defensive tackle inside with Dalvin Tomlinson, or is it Maurice Hurst?
Mo Hurst, I don't know. Yeah, we're going to find all this out.
Yeah, so they must feel good regardless of losing Winfrey about that front four and the secondary to make up for a linebacking core, which I think is the weakest part of this team.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that you're wrong, and I disagree with that, but I can't do that because I'm with you. The linebacking core has a lot to prove, and that's why I said a moment ago. What does Jim Schwartz feel are their best attributes?
Right.
By individually and as a group. I mean, if you're going to play a 4-2-5, well, then you're going to have to get some help from those two starting linebackers one way or another. either you got to feel real good that they're good in pass coverage, right, to help out that secondary, or are you going to try to turn them loose to help get after the quarterback and solidify a good strength against the opponent's run game? I mean, it's probably not going to be all of the above. So that's what I think is going to be the key thing. How does Jim Schwartz feel like this team, these linebackers, are best suited in terms of making his defense significantly better? We're going to, as individuals, Ken, I mean, again, I'm not trying to disparage the kids, but you can't say none of them have really, stepped up to be proven to be, some of the best in the league at their position. We can't say that yet. Now, maybe with Schwartz, that starts to turn a little bit, though.
Right. Yeah. We'll see. He needs to have the impact on the defense, and this is a coach, not a player, that we expect Deshaun Watson to have an impact with the offense, right?
Yeah.
He was the big name free agent, in my opinion, that they went out and got on defense. Yeah, they added, don't get me wrong, I understand. Yeah, they went out and they brought in Thornhill from Kansas City, and they go get Zadarius Smith, and he and Myles Garrett combined sacks over the last 5 years. I get it. Players impact games more than coaches do, but you went out of your way to can your defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, see ya, and bring in a veteran Super Bowl caliber former head coach guy. He needs to impact this. So I'm going to give him the defense, and I'm going to put my trust in Jim. May the Schwartz be with you, and hope that it works out.
Well, we've mentioned the two guys, Ken. I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Dalvin Tomlinson and Juan Thornhill. Tomlinson up front and Thornhill in the back end. Those two guys are going to have to be big-time players.
Yeah.
I really believe those two in particular, if they can have significantly strong years individually, which of course is to help the better of the good for everybody in terms of talking defense of the NFL, if those two can have strong, and we've seen them do it, Tomlinson with the Minnesota Vikings, Thornhill with the KC Chiefs, right? Yep. So he's a champion. Right, he's an NFL champion. Got to be big, Ken. Those are guys that are going to have to step out and be significant for this defense to really take the steps that Schwartz and everybody wants.
Based on the communication problems and big plays they gave up last year, that you're right. Those guys, there has to be, no lack of communication and big play ability, especially on the back end from Thornhill. Yep. And you hope that Tomlinson and Smith, teammates, right, Minnesota, are able to collapse the pocket, create some turnovers, some pressures, stop the run, and help that defense as well. So,
you're right. And let's include Smith with Tomlinson and Thornhill.
Yeah. Okay.
Those three guys, right? And I'm glad you added Smith in there with me. Those three guys. I mean, they've played strong, solid B+, A- football in their careers.
Right.
Can they do that here? Again, as individuals, to make the whole the better part of the good. Schwartz seems like he's got confidence in those three that they'll do that, and they're going to need to. They're going to need to.
Yeah, Smith comes via trade, Tomlinson and Thornhill come via free agency. So we'll see how they impact this defense. Reg, what's the strength of this team? When you look at this roster, and on paper, this is one of the better rosters they've had since they've been back in '99, right? When you look at Pro Bowl caliber players, all pro caliber players, big names, impact players. What is the strength of this football team? I said linebackers the weakness. What do you think is the strength of this team?
Nick Chubb heading up the running back room as it combines with a pretty damn solid NFL offensive line, Kenny.
Okay.
The run game. With Chubb heading it up, and that offensive line, as we know, you've said it, I've said it, I don't know. You want to get in numbers, are they top 5 in the NFL? They're good. They're damn good. And they're going to have to continue to be that. And as we said, and we'll see if, so remember, no Kareem Hunt now, right, for the first time. And so Jerome Ford, 5th round pick, one of Andrew Berry's guys, 5th round pick, 2022. only 8 rushing attempts, Ken, as a rook last year.
Right.
He's in the Chubb mold. He's 225 pounds. But again, we didn't see him. 8 carries last year. And you can say, well, right, when you got Nick Chubb, I get it. But as we know, Ken, there are going to be some games where an opposition defense kind of keeps Chubb contained, right?
Yep.
And like we said earlier, too, then in addition to the pass game, I mean, you hope Jerome Ford can give Chubb a series off here and there, right? And keep the run game at least to the satisfactory point that allows the offense to maintain consistency. I hope so. I hope he can. I guess what Demetric Felton is the other one, a 6th rounder. But I think, Kenny, he might be a roster casher. As I look at it, I think they might, as we were talking about, we mentioned like a Kenya Drake. I think Demetric Felton isn't a guarantee to make the football team.
The only reason I'm leaning towards him making it, Reg, it's twofold. Draft pick, return game. Okay. That's why because I don't know where Jakeem Grant is recovering from that Achilles injury. Yeah. You know this, man. Achilles injuries in professional sports, it's usually a 2-year recovery period if you get back to where you were before the injury occurred.
No doubt.
So
yes.
That's why, maybe Felton is, Ford is probably going to return kickoffs and be the backup running back. Is Felton the third down back? Is he the Swiss Army knife as a possible return guy if Grant doesn't work out? And the third down back, and the fact that he was a draft pick, it was a 6th rounder. I get it. But you know how it is with GMs. They don't like to admit their wrongs. I mean, are they going to cut 2 draft picks in Schwartz on offense and Felton in the same season? That's tough for me if I'm Andrew Berry to swallow that pill,
It is. I get it. And you're right. I mean, everybody's got an ego. And I mean, Andrew Berry, drafted this young man just 2 seasons ago.
Right.
And like you said, now you throw in potentially, you throw in who we talk, the receiver Schwartz in this too.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me a GM is going to, as you said, swallow the fact that two of his draft picks,
right? You're
just going to turn loose for other teams to maybe go to work on. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting with that position.
Add David Bell too. Where does David Bell factor into all of this too? Now he's only been here a year, but a very unimpactful year last year.
Third rounder, right?
As a 3rd round pick. And then they add another 3rd round pick at the receiver position this year out of Tennessee and Cedric Tillman.
Oh, Tillman. You're right. Yeah. You're right. The draft pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult for them to pare this roster down.
Yeah.
And quite possibly, 2 guys in Demetric Felton and Schwartz that have been drafted by Andrew Berry, maybe casualties.
And here's somebody might be saved by this. And we talked about Perion Winfrey being cut by the team off the field issues. Marquise Goodwin comes down with blood clots. They don't know when he'll be back. So that maybe opens up a roster spot early in the season. Again, I'm not a doctor. I've never dealt with blood clots. I don't know, but it's obviously serious enough where he is shut down, indefinitely right now. There's no timetable on his return. So maybe that opens up a roster spot, for Schwartz to stick around or Bell to stick around because, Goodwin was the backup to DPJ, according to the depth chart. Your starting wideouts are Cooper, DPJ, and Elijah Moore. So those are your 3 starters. After that, I think it's up for grabs who the number 4 and 5 receivers are with this team.
Agreed. No question about it. I want David Bell to be one of them.
Okay.
But, again, I really like the kid. I liked him at Purdue. And I thought, hey, this is a damn solid pick in the 3rd round. Got size, yes, more of a possession guy that could work in the middle of the football field, not a burner, but, catches the football for you.
Right.
But you can say, well, we sure didn't see that last year. He hardly got any opportunities. Didn't get on the field. Is he going to get those opportunities this year? Those are part of the questions in that receiving room that, Are they going to wait, or are they going to give DPJ a new contract? They going to extend him? Because if he doesn't get extended, Kenny, he becomes a free agent. He can walk away from him if he wants.
Yep.
So there's another question involved. I'd love to see him get Bell involved. And if, I assume the young man's capable of it again as a possession guy, bigger possession receiver. These are the things that, we're going to find out. And again, you mentioned his name. I don't know how much Alex Van Pelt's got with Stefanski involvement in all of these decisions. Position group decisions, player decisions, from guys that, again, you look at a third round guy, a third round guy in this NFL, Ken's got to contribute and contribute strongly, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there you have it. And so a lot of things as this training camp begins, but I know you and I are going to be on top of it each and every week as we, because that Hall of Fame game is coming up in
So we're taping this on a Sunday night. It's a week from this Thursday. Yeah, a week from this Thursday. Yeah,
10 days basically. Yeah.
And so don't expect Deshaun Watson or any of the starters to play in that game. But hey, we're gonna get a good look at their backup quarterback, which we haven't tackled, Joshua Dobbs, right now. You got Dorian Thompson Robinson as the rookie quarterback, and then Kellen Mond, who I expect may be here just to not wear the other guy's arms out, and then he'll probably get cut and be a practice squad guy, down the road. But so we'll see. Some of these guys that'll be battling for those 4, 5, 6 receiver spots, 2, 3 running back spots, backup quarterback, third string quarterback. That's what we'll see in that Hall of Fame game on offense and with some of the defensive players.
You'll be down there. You'll see it, right?
Yeah.
You'll be there. I saw you. You look like a grand marshal. Was that today or yesterday? For your WHBC, we're riding in sweet-looking Corvettes, convertibles. Yeah. That was fun, huh?
The kickoff parade. We're in 2 parades. We do the community kickoff parade, which was today, and then we'll ride in the Hall of Fame Grand Parade on Saturday morning, August 5th. And then, of course, the enshrinement ceremonies later that afternoon. And then going to be kicking it with, what they now call the Concert for Legends.
Nice.
And it's going to be a lot of fun, man. They've really turned what used to be like a 1 or 2 day event into about a 2 weeks, 2 weeks worth of events, Reg.
Yeah, good. That's what they're supposed to do, man. See, NFL, market it till you can't get any more. And I'm glad you're going to be a part of that. It should be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it. And I've never seen Zach Brown, so I'm looking forward to, checking him out at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium as well. Enjoy his music. And they've done a nice job with the way they put this all together. All right, Reg, let's do this. Let's get a break in. We're going to go a little bit longer today because we do have to talk a little Guardians baseball here, Reg, because the trading deadline is going to be upon us in about a week's time here. And as we speak, Guardians 3 games out of first in the division behind the Minnesota Twins. Got a big homestand concluding with the Kansas City Royals, which they must sweep before they head out on the road to take on the Chicago White Sox and the Houston Astros before the trading deadline. I want to get your thoughts on whether or not they are buyers or sellers right now, Michael Reghi, at 49-50, the Cleveland Guardians, as they enter the last few days of July and that August 1st trading deadline. We'll get Michael's thoughts on that when we return right after this here on the Press Play Podcast Network. It's the Reghi and Roda podcast brought to you by MGM Northfield Park.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the Reghi Roda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out once again to everybody at MGM Northfield Park looking for a good time. Want to head out for the weekend and take a group or just your significant other? Head on out to MGM Northfield Park. Enjoy the racing and everything else that comes with it at MGM Northfield Park. Michael Reghi, the Cleveland Guardians, I guess no team defines this statement that I'm going to make more than the Cleveland Guardians. You are what your record says you are, Michael Reghi, and the Cleveland Guardians now are 49-50, hovering right around 500 for about the last month now. And the question is, will that be enough to win this division? Earlier when we taped some podcasts, I thought it might, but I'm wondering, are the Minnesota Twins starting to maybe pull away from the Cleveland Guardians, who are, on hard times right now based on their starting pitching injuries, with everybody but Aaron Savale not in the rotation right now, Reg?
Yeah, Kenny, and so much is attached to that. Yeah. The one-loss record in this particular division. As we know, we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. If they were in a couple other divisions, they'd be 9, 10, 11 games out. And, now you're probably thinking with, 62 games left?
Yeah.
3, you're leaning toward being a seller. That you're probably not. This damn division, though, Kenny, I remember succinctly you and I doing our baseball preview show. I said 83-79 may damn well win the division. Well, I still stand by that.
Right.
And it's proven to be true. So now, if you look at it that way and you're an optimist, you say, well, then let's just hang tight. Let's just hang tight. The problem with hanging tight is, number one, so if it doesn't work and you don't make the playoffs, now you probably added to more moves you're going to have to make for this team going into 2024. And yet, again, a young man like Oscar Gonzalez, Kenny, you're paying him $750,000 a year. I know that's not a lot, but you sent him out. And I tell you, every time I look at that damn starting outfield, see where, although Quan went deep today, didn't he?
Yes,
hit a home run. Yep. But you know what I'm saying, though. This is the least power deficient, or the most power deficient, the least power productive starting outfield in all of Major League Baseball, Ken.
Yeah.
We know, man, this is now a game where you got to be able to crush and score runs. If you can't put up 4, if not 5 a game, how the hell are you going to win in this baseball day and age now? Very difficult. So, they need a couple of bats. I don't know. You're going to move Shane Bieber to get a bat.
You can't now, can you? Because he's injured. Who's going to trade for him now, not knowing if he's going to pitch again this season?
That's right. So his value has gone down. Really, other than, who could make a real big splash? Well, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, but you're not trading those guys. You're not even considering that. They're your 3-4 hitters. So, they're kind of stuck behind him. And all that having been said, Kenny, could they have, they got, 63 games left? What'd you say they are? They're a game under? They're 49-50?
Yeah.
All right, so that quick math do you think 83-79 would win the division?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, then they need to go 34-29.
28?
29,
28. Yeah, 34-29.
34-29 the rest of the way. They capable of that? You tell me.
Reds, that's 5 games over 500. I don't know if they are capable of that. Because every time, and I sent this out on Twitter the other day, every time I want to start feeling good, they get back to 500. They look, Then they blow one to Kansas City. They blow one to Pittsburgh.
Right.
Today they rallied back, could have swept the Phillies and, tied it and then had bases loaded, nobody out, and they lose 8-5 today. So every time they get close, they can't get over that hump. And I don't know if they're able to, based on Savale, Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee, Logan Allen, and a bullpen game every 5 days. That's the rotation now with Quantrill and Bieber out. And as you mentioned, Gonzalez is down on the farm. The bullpen is still suspect, and James Karinchak is still down on the farm.
Yep.
So I want to think they have a chance, but like I said, 3 games out now as we approach the trading deadline. So buyers, sellers, neutral. Maybe they're neutral. Maybe they can't do anything because of the injury to Shane Bieber. Ahmed Rosario. I'm done with Ahmed Rosario. I don't need to see him anymore. Okay. I know sometimes the numbers look great. Oh, it's a decent batting. Yeah, but defensively, one of the worst shortstops in all of Major League Baseball. I don't need him as my defensive shortstop. And if he's going to make errors and not make plays at short, he better be hitting 310 with about 20 homers and 70 RBIs. That ain't happening. So I'd like to see them, if they can get something for Ahmed Rosario, I'm fine with it. Deal him, get a bullpen arm, get a minor league bat maybe for the outfield to add into the mix for the future. You got 5 other shortstops you can put over there. So he'd be a guy, if I'm trading somebody that's not injured, I would try and move Ahmed Rosario, but I don't know if there are any takers for him.
Yeah, that's the big question with him. And I'm with you, Kenny. When you look at the Major League roster, am I wrong in saying it's kind of a hodgepodge? It's just kind of a mishmash of guys that you're trying to put together to see if, the old sports phrase, you catch lightning in a bottle.
Right.
And maybe have a good final 2 months and win a division and get into October baseball. But, man, I look at that roster in totality, and it's like, it's difficult to comprehend that they're a team that is, and even if they did get in.
Yeah. One series
expect them to win a playoff series?
Yeah, no, that's just it. And Reg, I'm just hoping that maybe somebody out there thinks that Ahmed Rosario could be the, who was it? Eddie Rosario, right? That they had a few years ago, and he goes to Atlanta and helps Atlanta. So maybe a team looks at Ahmed and says, hey, on our team, that's what we need. We already have the big boppers on our team. We need somebody, so we'll see. But I'm not holding my breath on them making a big move to get a bat in here, Reg, because I think the only way that could have happened is with Shane Bieber. And now that he's hurt and you don't know when he's coming back, I don't see them, making a major trade like this.
I think you're right. And even though, Philadelphia, the Phillies, pretty good baseball team.
Yeah.
No shot to make the playoffs. You look at it and look at today. I know they were down 4, but the 2 biggest at bats, your 2 best. I don't know if you saw the bottom of the 10th?
I did. 10th. Yep.
And Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor had very poor at bats. And it's like, well, I mean, now that just confounds everything. Those are the guys, and again, it's putting a lot of pressure on those 2. Your 3-4 hitters. I get it, but that's baseball and professional sports are, right? I mean, they had a shot there to sweep Philly and be a game above 500. And of course, Ramirez and Naylor didn't have good at bats, and so you wind up leaving the bases loaded and nobody out.
Hard to knock those guys because they've carried them to this point.
I agree with you.
But guess what? When you're the 3 and 4 hitters, that's what you want. You're supposed to deliver in those situations. No doubt. Ramirez popped out to short right field, and I think Naylor didn't even get it out of the infield on the left side. Right. And you had Ramirez drop a ball that put the Phillies up earlier.
Tough on play, but you expect Jose to make the play.
Exactly. You expect him to make that play defensively. You expect him to get a big hit in that situation, and he failed in 2 situations.
Correct.
And when you're in a race like this, every game matters, every play matters, and that's where you need guys like that you're paying the big bucks to, and they're two of the higher priced players they have. They've got to step up and deliver, especially when you're looking at Miles Straw and Cam Gallagher and David Fry and all the other guys that we could go on and list that aren't really big league quality hitters.
And Kenny, I guess, how about all these games? It seems like it comes up every fourth, fifth game. It's going to be a bullpen game today.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what? Look, I know, okay, it's Reggie, it's now a new trend in oh, man. You can't be every 4 or 5 games having a bullpen day and expect to be successful against better teams in baseball. Right. I don't know.
We're waiting on Cal Quantrill and Bieber and McKenzie, right? And so for me, I'm not expecting McKenzie back at all. I'm not just me. I don't have any inside information on this, and I know they said good reports on Shane Bieber. I wouldn't shock me if he gets shut down for the rest of the year, especially if they fall out of the race. So Quantrill's the only one that I think might come back sometime soon, and he's been on the shelf ever since he pitched in the World Baseball Classic, which I have no inside information. I think had something to do with his injury. So those are three of your top 4 starters right there. And all 3 are out, and don't know if you're getting any of them back, or if you do get them back, will it be in enough time to help you win the division? So from that standpoint,
miss Tristan McKenzie, man.
Yeah,
really miss him being able to take the baseball for you because he keeps you in games. No, that kid keeps him in games.
Only problem is you can't get him in enough games, Reg. He doesn't. What the most important ability is? What availability. And he's not consistently available throughout his entire minor league and major league career.
Sad but true. That's correct. And, until these things and this roster becomes more whole in different areas, I just, again, because of the division, could they find a way, in September? Could they could. Yeah. They could. But then what?
I think they would be happy with just getting back
82 and 80 would you? You think so?
Yeah, I think they would be happy with just getting in because they still are the youngest team in baseball, and it'll be good experience, for the young guys 2 years in a row to get there and then hopefully build on it Reg, 3-game series, they drew 108,000 people. So people are showing up at the ballpark. 2 sellouts this weekend.
Clapping my hands. Kudos to you Tribe fans.
Yeah, absolutely. They're showing
Guardians fans.
What is it, 4 or 5 sellouts this year?
That's pretty damn good.
The marketing team has done a great job with all the promotions and everything, getting people to the ballpark. And they're in the division, they're in games, so that's good. So hopefully if they can, make some money with the gate receipts, and if they do get into a postseason with a home playoff game or something, like some extra cash, and maybe they'll be able to go out and afford a big bat for one of those corner outfield spots for next year.
Okay, there you go.
There's my positive mental attitude for the day.
That's a lot of positivity, and baseball is a game for dreamers anyway, right? So,
oh my. All right, Reds, that's going to bring us to the end of this edition of the R&R podcast, and we'll start doing this more regularly now, especially with football season upon us. We're going to do a college football preview. Maybe, you know what I was thinking, Reg? Why don't you reach out to your guy, Phil Steele? And let's get Phil Steele on to pick his brain about this upcoming college football season, because
Phil's great.
He has the Bible. When I say for the NFL draft, our lads, the Bible. For college football, it's Phil Steele, the Bible. And so let's reach out to Phil here in the next couple of weeks.
You got your copy yet, by the way?
What's that?
You got your copy?
I have not received my copy yet.
I'll mail you out one.
All right. Yeah,
I'll mail you out one. Yeah, I'll get you one this week.
Because if you understand my drift here, in my office, I read that on a regular basis.
I understand
when it comes. So
I got you.
So get that to me. So we'll tackle the college game, the pro game. Sure. We'll see where the Guardians go, and we got a lot to get to the second half of 2023 here on the R&R podcast. All right,
great time of year, Kenny, and we'll be ready to roll, and so we'll do it again next week.
Sounds great. Thanks again to our producer, Ty Kortz, for making all this possible. One of the best in the business out there. Thanks to Chase and everybody at the Press Play Podcast Network, and, of course, everybody at MGM Northfield Park powering the R&R podcast.